tips to connect with the astral. Let's get into them. Okay, so first things first, I mentioned it before in my what is the astral and how to get into it video. I will pop that wherever that pops. But one of these are just basically extended other tips because I have realized that I am very easily tapped into it since I've been doing this since I was very little. I love that I have a word now for what I do, but yeah. So let's get into the tips and stop your babbling, Sam. Anyway, tip number 1 is really concentrating on sensations and using them to help break the link between your place here and where you want to be, which would be in the astral as you venture off. So if you are in sort of like close your eyes, you're meditating and you're trying to like just see where you can get to, really focus on, okay, so first take stock of where you are and really feel like, what's it feel to be in your skin? What is the current thing around you? I would say right now it's like, hey, I can feel the air conditioning blowing on me. I can feel a little bit of the rub of the fabric on my skin from my jeans. I can feel these things. And so then I immediately pick a sensation that is not of now. I said before, I do a lot of like water is a huge part of my transition when I really need that break. So I will have a little, like I will imagine water dripping down my skin. And as I do it slowly but surely, my mind will get to the point where it's like, no, it does feel that. And at that point, if I focus, I now know that I'm near a place that's raining or waterfalls or something else. And then I know I'm in the astral. Second thing that I do a lot is motion. Motion really works well. This can be a problem a bit and a bit with safety, so please be careful. But I started realizing this when I was very, very young, and I would just stare out of the window of the car because I was motion sick, and then my mind would just, and because I didn't have to focus, because my attention wasn't necessary, it allowed my brain to slowly kind of creep away as my daydreams took over. And the motion of the things passing by and the motion of being in the car and staring out the window really helped to, because a lot of times I am moving through the astral, and if I'm just like kind of sitting here, it took me a very long time to get to the point where I was sitting and then being in the astral and moving. And still to this day, I still catch myself, or if I am suddenly like something shocking happens there, like if Loki goes and grabs my hand, or like the crocodile snaps on me or something, like I feel myself jerk. And it feels weird for a second because I knew in the astral I was walking, but in this realm I'm sitting. And so that jerk pulls me out of it really quickly because I was moving and now I'm not. So when I'm in a place of movement, that really seems to work. Some of the things that work well for me with that is I go on walks and that really helps. Please make sure you're safe when you're doing that. You're in a safe area that like no one's gonna come up behind you or anything. Don't do this either. Driving, I zone out a lot when I'm driving. I'm suddenly somewhere else, and thank God for autopilot with that, but don't do that, it's not safe. But if someone else is driving the car, like tell them, like, hey, I'm feeling a little sick. You know, I just need to stare out the window for just a second. I'm sorry, like I want to talk to you, but I'm not feeling all that well. And just stare out the window and see what things flush off. I have the added benefit of also being motion sickness all the time, so everyone in my family just knows that, you know, Sam's gonna stare out the window, and that's just, we're not gonna have much of a discussion unless she's in the front seat. I also used a rocking chair for a long time when I was in apartments. I basically had this old rocking chair from when I was little, and the rocking motion helped me to like think like, okay, we're somewhere, motion is happening, but I can envision the motion being a little bit different as it going on. And then also, when I was younger at my childhood home, we had the swing set, and swings always did it for me. That motion was something about a repetitive motion can really just break you out of stuff. So maybe even just pacing in your home, if you have one place that you can just like kind of like pace back and forth and just get your body used to that, so that it can then know that I don't have to pay attention to this realm, and as your mind floats off, it doesn't suddenly like jerk you out. Tip number 3 is, of course, sound. Pick a song. Some people do really well without lyrical music, I've noticed. I really actually need the right lyrics. There's not very many things that I can listen to that will, I don't know, like that it's non-lyrical that'll do it. There's a couple of people I really like. I really loved, you know, different like meditation or calming CDs or podcasts or things of that nature. There's so many that you can just like Google now onto YouTube, but just put it like, I definitely say like don't, depending on you, but I really find it helpful to have headphones specifically. Like I do not want any sound ever to enter into my brain if I'm using music to help or sound to help shut things out. A lot of really repetitive noises too. So even if I do pick a lyrical song, I have that song on repeat. And literally for like hours, like sometimes if I'm like getting off somewhere. At most, my sessions when I try to go into the astral roughly go around 20 to 30 minutes depending. In the very beginning, it was pretty quick and I would kind of jump from like astral thing back out. Into the astral, out of the astral, into the astral, out of the astral. But eventually I got into the flow of it and now I can pretty much stay in there for about 20 to 30 minutes if I'm really focusing hard. And again, if everything's kind of in alignment, right? Like nothing's bothering me, no one's gonna bug me, the music's right, nothing jerky happens, nothing pulls me out of it, then I can pretty much stay in there without having to worry. What number was I on? Do I even remember? I don't think so. Anyway, and then another tip for making sure to get into the astral is to allow things that fascinate you, that you want to daydream about, to take over your brain, because that daydreaming of something fantastical or something that like something you want to happen in your life eventually can lead to a better conscious astral exploring if you want to like talk to your higher self, or it's a much more direct talking to your shadow self, your inner child, or deities, or any of this nature, allowing that more fantastical daydream to kick in. And by this I mean like if you're imagining a different version of something from a TV show or a book, or you know, you're off dreaming about, oh, what would it be like if that cute boy over there came over and said hi to me, like just imagining what that situation would be for a second. When your brain goes off and you have to like kind of jerk yourself out of it for a second, allow those daydreams to happen way more. When I feel the urge, if there's like a certain like show now or a certain book or something that gives me a bit of inspiration, I'm like, ooh, what if the story went that way? I always let my brain go. I let those characters' voices fill my head and I see the whole situation happening in my mind, and that is really probably how I got my best start, is allowing my daydreams about things that I don't necessarily consider my spiritual exploration in a sense. Like they're very more playful, they're just inspiration based, they're just things that kind of like trigger that playfulness for me. Like it's the same, like daydreaming about that is equivalent to like me playing a video game. Like it's just a lot of fun. So allowing those daydreams to really kind of take you over. If you're like, there's like two characters in a show and you're like, no, they need to hook up, and like you're envisioning them like now hooking up in your head, like you do that, like let that flow. If there is, you know, it'd be really great to like, you see like the lottery numbers and you're like, oh god, what would it be like to win the lottery, and you like let your mind just like waver off on that for a second. Do that. Let those fantasy things and those daydreams really take you over and give time to them, even if you jerk out of them pretty quickly because you have to focus on something else. I now, because I knew that feeling, I was able to then to go into the other feeling, which is constantly tapping into the astral when I want to. It's doing that shift of being like, okay, now I know what that feels to shift over there, so I can now shift this way when I'm like, I want to talk to Persephone, I want to tap into what Sobek is attempting to get into my brain. And the last tip that I will say is that don't expect the astral to always act as you're wanting it to, right? Like I think sometimes in some points I got very aggravated when I would tap into some place and it wasn't acting as I wanted to. Like I almost wanted to act like a lucid dream of mine where everything would just shape to my will without any issue and without other things popping in. And I actually find that the most invigorating things happen when I am not in full control. And that's honestly when I now realize that, hey, I am not in, say, like my inner, in the astral I kind of see it as like there's a way for me to kind of like go inward into myself and go within the realm that is me. And then there's the outer realm that is tapping into other spirits, other people. I have allowed I explore outer realms with my deities. My deities also are allowed into the world, the realm of me within the astral, but no one else really is beyond that. So I know now when something shocking happens, or like something looks weird, or something's like, I'm like, why did that pop in my head? Instead of like fighting it and chasing and running away with going like, I don't want to think about that. Like I kind of lean into it a little bit to see where it's going to take me. Sometimes it kind of like flows away without any issue. Other times it is something kind of weird and a little troubling, and I have to kind of like fight through it and see what is going on there. What is my brain or a deity or a spirit trying to show me or tell me? And I play with that quite a bit. And then also I would also just, the last thing the last thing I will say is that some people I have noticed have a little bit of hesitance or a little bit of fear with dealing with the astral in general, because for me, I know my inner world very well. It is very well protected. It is strong. It is fierce. There's some shit in there that I don't even want to face because there's some shadows that I have to deal with. So in my mind, for me, it is extremely comforting even, because if someone else, say, found their way into my inner realm, then they would have to fight and deal with the crazy ass crocodiles that are not Sobek but are parts of him. They would have to deal with my shadow selves, Jeffrey and Nikki and all of that crap. They would have to deal with the random mazes and cities that have now evolved up, the really deep woods. There's some like terrifying stuff in there that I now kind of look at with playfulness a bit, and so I don't really worry so much about anything creeping their way into my inner astral. But when it comes to the outer astral, I am definitely a little more hesitant in a sense, and that's probably why I haven't explored it too much without a deity also guiding me through it. I've explored things with Loki. I've explored things mostly with Persephone. Me and her go into the underworld a lot together, and I can tell it's much more of a weird intersection of stuff happening. And I've seen other deities and spirits that make me a little nervous at times, but mostly I just, you know, link up with a deity. If you're not using personified deity in your practice, you know, definitely cast some protection magic. Maybe have a little amulet that you've created, which is your guiding point for the astral. And I've never had the need for this, but I've heard other friends of mine have, where they have a point that kind of jerks them out or brings them out of the astral if something gets a little too scary, a little too weird. I have, from my dreams and things, I have tapped into a overwhelming like black like darkness cloak that kind of just like whoop, it like goes around me, and it's a mix of some of my deity magic mixed in with protection from my lovely demon, and then my inner my power. Like I envision it as just like this big black like encroaching darkness that just goes like whoop, like nope, she's mine, you can't touch her, back off. And I just kind of envision that enveloping me whenever I get a little too scared, and I can feel like the barrier just like go up if there is something that I have encountered that is a little bit off or weird. So you can definitely create different protection things if that is something that makes you nervous. But honestly, there's a lot of things where I'm all for protection magic, and if you're feeling weird about it, like use it in that sense, but I don't use it nearly as much as some people say you should. And I think that's just because I am very curious, and I'm not as, even if something terrifies me for a bit, I have no problem poking it in the astral to see what is going on there. Peel back a little bit of the layer and see if there's something there that is of interest, or a new relationship, or something that should be bonded or messed with. Anyway, if you have any other questions or other tips and tricks, please leave them in the comments down below of how to interact with the astral. I make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.